And that also wasn't your first series too. You made a series back in the day called Reality Check.
Oh, I did, yeah. Reality Check was like, if you want to say what was the birth of like being creative with my own stuff, it probably was Reality Check, yeah. That was an MS Paint animation series from 2009. I think every episode was like 30 seconds to a minute, and it was just like stick people basically talking to each other, and there'd usually be like a punchline or something in it.
Hello everyone, my name is Casey, and for today we are brought with another special guest. He's a part of a group of people I like to call the Lost Media Avengers. His name is LSuperSonicQ. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, pretty good. It's been quite a year of lost and found media, but we're at the end of it now, and it was a wild ride, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, of course, of course. So first thing I want to talk about is let's talk about the significance of using Gumby for your perspective AP art projects.
Using using Gumby as the perspective.
Yeah.
That's a really, really deep question. I forgot all about. Did I ever even show that in one of my videos?
Yeah, in your video you had the 2014 art projects and you showed off a bunch of like your AP art, a bunch of your gallery art, and then some like art you made for fun.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So the idea about that was we had to pick a bunch of objects to draw in different perspective, and I was thinking, well, I could pick any shape or any type of object. But specifically, I thought that Gumby was such a malleable and interesting character where he could basically, and in the show, he could basically turn into anything. He could exist as anything. And of course, with a plastic figure, you can't really change into anything. But the posability and the flexibility of him, I thought could be really interesting to kind of draw from different angles and get different viewpoints of such a uniquely shaped character, because his head and stuff is really odd looking too. And that made that project a lot more fun, where I was actually able to experiment with like how he would look from the different angles and like just really use his posability in the real world, and reflect that onto the drawings. So it was actually it made a rather boring project a little more fun, especially because you were drawing like a cartoon character too instead of just a regular shape or something like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, that was just like my icebreaker question. But for anyone who doesn't really know who you are, you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is LSuperSonicQ. I make YouTube videos that cover lost media, so content that was once available that no longer is. And I've been doing that specifically for, I think, a decade next year, which is crazy. But the lost media community existed even before I was making videos about lost media. I was doing art stuff before, and I've been on YouTube since 2009, so it's been quite a wild ride, and I've basically built my entire online presence around creating content in one way or another. So even if you don't know me for the lost media or the cartoon culture videos and stuff like that, then you probably saw me from my clay sculptures from back 15 years ago.
Mhm. So, considering that much of your content revolves around video games and kids' cartoons, just talk about like growing up, like some of your favorite of each, like cartoons or video games, and just like how growing up with a bunch of media was like.
Yeah, so, well, I feel like a lot of people do look back fondly on the 90s and 2000s for the nostalgia, and we're definitely in the nostalgia like point right now in time. Um, I grew up a lot of Cartoon Network, a lot of Nickelodeon, which is also what's reflected in my content. And for video games, it was always Nintendo and Sega, which is still reflected in my content too, all the lost media and stuff. But yeah, I feel like we had a really good childhood growing up with that stuff, specifically like the Cartoon Fridays on Cartoon Network, the Foster's Home Camp Lazlo, like that stuff. I feel like people always say that the cartoons are not as good nowadays, and I know every generation is going to think their cartoons are the best, but man, I gotta say, our stuff was really, really good. And same thing with the games, like the GameCube, Game Boy Advance, like that stuff was so pivotal. I feel like I feel like it was a lot more influential to my generation than like the Wii U, let's say, and that kind of thing. 3DS. I know those are still, well, I don't like the Wii U, but 3DS was still a good console. But like just those consoles, that type of media, when it came out, how it influenced us. Like I just feel like that in itself was so important. Like I feel like to this day we've never really seen another Sonic Adventure or Sonic Adventure 2, quality of Sonic game. And There never will be another Powerpuff Girls, Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Lab, or SpongeBob. Never will be another SpongeBob. And like we grew up with that stuff, and I really, really feel like it was just some of the best stuff to really be like influenced as a kid and just absorb it all and how it kind of created what I'm interested in nowadays, which yeah, basically is all that stuff.
Mhm. So then you began like making videos and you started YouTube off a rivalry with a friend?
Yeah, the YouTube rivalry was so great. And I look back on that stuff and I really think like it's crazy how just one little thing changed the whole trajectory of it's like the butterfly effect. Yeah, so the rivalry was back in middle school. I remember it was sixth grade and it was me, one friend, and then a third friend. And the third friend I didn't really like that much because I was friends with my friend from kindergarten, but this third friend was like a new guy. He was kind of in our group. I didn't really like him and he did a lot of art like I did. And he would post his animations. He did a lot of Flash stuff, and he would post it to YouTube, and he would show like our mutual friend, and he was impressed. And I'm like, hey, I do art. It's not I don't do animations, but I do sculptures, the video game sculptures. And I said, I bet I can get just as many views as him, or maybe even more views than him. And he talked about a website called YouTube and stuff, which I had never really heard about back then. And I looked into it. I made my account. I had years of sculpting that I wasn't even posting up to that point. I was just sculpting for all those years just to myself. So I took pictures of them, compiled them into videos, and I released those onto the LSuperSonicQ channel. And it was kind of a rivalry for a bit. He was doing his animations, I was doing my clay, and we were kind of seeing who can get more views, who can get more subscribers. And of course, back then, before monetization was really anything, it was just a total hobby for fun. I didn't even really take it too seriously. I like to think eventually I won the war because like before we ended up graduating from high school, he was kind of tapping out of it and I was still going with it. And I feel like at that point, again, even though it was all fun and games, but I feel like I had succeeded and I had beaten him and stuff. But it's crazy because I actually ran into him many years ago at like a Dairy Queen. And I'm like, oh, I
Mhm.
haven't seen you in a long time. And of course, like, back when we were kids, we were, you know, it was a little bit more bitter and stuff, but now that we're older and stuff, it's all good. And he's like, "Oh, what are you up to nowadays?" And I said, "I'm still doing YouTube. That's what I do nowadays. That's my job." And I said it all started because of what we were doing back in the day. And he thought that was so cool. And I just, yeah, it was so cool, just kind of like thinking about that and how just such a nonsense thing to impress our friends became such a big, um, you know, a lasting effect on myself and also just the people that I entertain too.
So like what got you into like animations and art?
Um, I would say, generally speaking, probably. I want to say, I think the thing that, aside from being influenced from Nintendo and cartoons and stuff like that, the one pivotal moment that I think really, really got me like into actually doing it was the lack of video game like action figures and toys growing up. Because if you can see behind me, I have so many toys and figures back there and stuff. And when I was growing up, this stuff didn't exist, and I wanted to play with like Sonic action figures and like Naruto action figures, but it really didn't exist. It eventually did, but not when I was like really little in the early 2000s. So I said, what am I going to do? I got to make my own. And that's why I ever started picking up clay in the first place, was to make my own figures to play with. And then after I, use them to play, then that's kind of led to I have this collection of statues now. Well, I'll take the photos for YouTube and then I'll get them into the video. And, I was sculpting up until like I think 2016 was the last time I officially did a sculpture. And of course, it went from just like little, mini figures all the way to like actual like statues on the last ones I made. But it really was that not having toys growing up of these characters that got me into actually doing the art. I mean, art itself has always kind of been in my blood, I guess you could say, because I've been drawing ever since I can remember. But specifically, actually, like putting that to a creative, like a real creative mindset for other people online, it was really with the sculptures and not having toys growing up. That's really where it all came from.
Mhm. And since like your content's focused now on like lost media, do you ever like consider like do you still do art or like would you ever like make some content about art now?
Uh, Funny you say that. I mean, I guess this is a thing about me. I guess I'll just plug this. I guess actually, yes. I have kind of gone back to my art roots a little bit because for a long time I kind of struggled with like I'd love to get back into, and this kind of gets into a bigger thing about my content itself. My content never was really supposed to shift away from art. The lost media kind of just came into play because the art at the time, 2013, 2014, just was not doing very good on YouTube. People didn't really seem to care about it. The views I was getting in 2009 and 2010, they weren't there. And I naturally found my way into lost media, and I like doing video essay stuff. But you kind of circle back to what you grew up with. You want to try different things. I've been wanting to get back into sculpting for years, doing art for years, and I just never had a reason to. I never had a purpose to. And I tried different things every now and then, but it didn't really work. I tried getting back into sculpting, but like I said, now all these figures exist. So what's the point in making my own? But I actually did very recently, taking some inspiration from Naruto and like anime, like Bleach, that I grew up with. I kind of wanted to make my own little like anime stuff. It's not an animation, but it's like it's a little like, or not a little. It's, I guess it's pretty hefty. I started this like spin-off project. It's like a novel, but like an anime inspired like written novel, like a fiction novel, but it's very heavily influenced by anime and like manga, and there's a lot of artwork in it. It's called Pink Ninja. It's on my Wattpad. But that's kind of actually my like main art project now is I get to design the characters, draw the characters. Every chapter has like color illustrations and there's some like actual like manga panel bonuses at the end. And right now that's sort of my art focus. It gives me a reason to actually be creative with that kind of thing again. I am getting to create new things that don't already exist, so I'm not like competing with like professional companies that are making Naruto figures and stuff or whatever. And it really gave me a reason to kind of step away from the videos just as a side thing and really get back to like the roots and like what I was doing when I was drawing those Gumby things. Like, of course, all these ideas are not really. It's not like this is an old idea that I just never did, but taking all that art that I did back in the day and actually creating something new from it that people can enjoy, that's, I feel like it's really rewarding and I really enjoyed working on it. And I just finished the first volume, like only a couple of weeks ago. It took a long time to do because man, I forgot how hard art was to like make. Like back in high school is one thing, but when you're working with like digital art and stuff now, it's wow, it's like really, really like you got to learn all the ins and outs of that stuff. And I had never really done digital art before until like right now, so it's kind of a learning process as well. But I'm really happy with like the direction of that project, and that's kind of the big art focus right now. I'd like to get back into clay. I'm thinking about getting back into clay, but I'm still sort of figuring out where that can go. But definitely the Pink Ninja novel and art stuff that goes with it is really what the focus of creativity is, um, outside of the videos. So yeah, that's been a whole lot of fun to do actually.
And where did that come about, your Pink Ninja series?
It kind of came about from it kind of just came about from going to like comic book shops and like manga shops and seeing all the covers and stuff just lined up along the wall. Like I've always been a fan of Naruto and Bleach and I have a lot of like the Naruto manga from when I was growing up. So it's always been there. But I would always see these new series I've never even heard of. Like I didn't even know what Demon Slayer was for a long time or Spy Family. And I would see these covers of all this manga and I said like what is this about? But like I've never heard of this or seen this, but like, look at the art. Like, it's so interesting. Like, it makes me want to like figure out what it is, even though I don't know what it is. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could do that and like make my own thing that people are like, what's that about? What's that girl doing on the cover? Like what's going on here? And then that can kind of pull them into it just like I was getting pulled into this stuff in the store. So it's kind of like a more like indie way of kind of doing that because obviously it's not published in the stores. It's just a web like a web novel kind of thing. But it kind of gave me a way to do that after being influenced from the covers I would see in the stores. Like, oh, I can do that too, just on a smaller scale. Just kind of for anyone online that wants to check it out.
And give like a small like premise of like the story of
Ooh,
this web
ooh,
novel.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited about that. Yeah. So basically, again, it takes a lot of influences from Naruto and stuff. Basically, it's about the protagonist is this girl named Alice, and she is the last surviving member of the ninja clan. So the whole world was comprised of like several different clans and nations. Like there was like a ninja clan, like an elf clan. There's like an aquatic, people land, and eventually after so many years had passed, the leaders of these lands kind of betrayed their clans, and they created a new land, and they were going to rule over the whole world. And all of the ninja clan basically got wiped out during this war. It was like a decade long war. And Alice, now that she's older, and after having fought in the first leg of this war, decided, I need to stop this war. I have to like return the world back to like the way that it was, and in the process she has to kind of archive the remnants of the past that have been destroyed, which little lost media like tone there. All the map, all the records of like the nations and the leaders and the history are kind of gone, and she has to go around to all the nations and not only, you know, kill the bad guys and restore peace, but also gather up all this um content, all this knowledge that's been scattered around, and kind of restructure the history of the world and stuff. So if you like anime, Naruto themed stuff, and also some anime girls and stuff, there's a lot of girl characters in the cast and stuff. That's kind of what the vibe of it is. And yeah, I it's a lot of fun. It's like an overarching action narrative story with anime girls. So yeah.
And where do you want to take it next in terms of like, do you want to just stick to it being like a web novel? Do you want to like, let's say, you know, maybe have like an online dub on YouTube for it, maybe even like an animation, a physical copy?
Wow, this is like pipe dream stuff. This is like when I'm not thinking about videos, I'm thinking about this because I would ideally I would like, and again, this kind of goes beyond just the I like anime, here's my little anime book thing. No, I've always loved the idea, especially back in the day, like we're saying, as it relates to SpongeBob and video game, publishing a work and getting that kind of seen by more eyes and stuff. It's just, I think it's just like a, you know, something that everyone likes to do. They want to create this world that can be enjoyed by people, and having created a whole fiction world, you know, that it's sort of a completely different mindset, a different step than just making a video about something that already exists online. So ideally, I would love for this to be a published novel series that you could get like in the store, lined up along with Demon Slayer and Naruto and all that stuff, like Alice Wright lined up along there. I would love that. So ideally, I would like for it to be someday, maybe, um, like a published book series that you could go to the store and get. And I think there's definitely enough content for that to happen with it. Of course, I have to write it. Only the first volume was just finished. I have a lot of ideas. But other than that, people have like kind of said in passing before, they think an audiobook would be cool. I would love to actually cast like actual voice actors and like do a real audiobook reading of that. I think it would add a whole new like dimension to that, and sort of goes along the lines of video production, and creating like, you know, YouTube esque videos that don't have like heavy animation or anything. Of course, who wouldn't want their creation being an anime? I mean, that's on the table, but I mean, you know, it's a lot of this stuff is like fantasy, like, oh, maybe someday, like whatever. If the stars align in just the right way, and someone who really needs that series with the anime girl with the pink hair and she's a ninja, oh, that's the perfect one. Let's greenlight that and everything. But realistically, I'd love for it to be like a published book. I think authors have, you know, people that create content or manga or just actual novels, to get their work published is always like an accomplishment. And I think as a little like a side project, a little like side goal for myself, I would love to just see that happen at the very least. But yeah, I mean, a dub is always possible of the text and stuff. So maybe someday that'll happen. I actually have I've I was I was on one of those like request people to record voice lines for you websites for an unrelated project that never got anywhere, just some ads for merchandise stuff. And I was going through voice actors and stuff for like this ad campaign I never did. But as I was doing it, I kind of thought, wow, some of these people actually, I can imagine them being like some of the characters in the book. Like, oh, wouldn't that be cool if like, you know, I pick up the voices and then they actually like bring the characters to life. Like, oh my god, like that'd be cool. I don't know, be a cool like meshing of a bunch of different media, I think, which is also just very interesting too. Just, you know, narration and talking and stuff. I talk a lot, as you can probably tell. So, just a whole another like level of just creativity that I think is cool to like, you know, explore.
And that also wasn't your first series too. You made a series back in the day called Reality Check.
Oh, I did, yeah. um, do you just want me to talk about it, or
You can
what?
just talk about it.
Yeah, no, Reality Check was like, if you want to say what was the birth of like being creative with my own stuff, it probably was Reality Check. Yeah. That was an MS Paint animation series from 2009. I think every episode was like 30 seconds to a minute, and it was just like stick people basically talking to each other, and there'd usually be like a punchline or something in it. Um, but they weren't back in the day. They were like, I think they're just barely passable for like being good. Nowadays, I feel like they're probably pretty hard to watch, other than just having the nostalgia of like late 2000s web animations. But no, that was really cool doing those because I animated them all myself. I voiced all the characters. Everybody just sounded the same because I had no way to like change my voice back then and stuff. I do remember asking like my brother and stuff for ideas. He actually gave me the idea for the second episode where the guy opens his head and sticks the note in. The write down this word, and then it gets erased in his brain or whatever. I That was a fun little series. There's some lost media from that. A couple episodes I had started animating and then never finished and stuff. And I think all those files are gone nowadays. But it's funny to look back on and think that like we've gone from that all the way to all the way to now. And of course, I remember. I know this kind of gets a little far off, but even when I was in high school, I would take creative writing classes and come up with like little concepts or little ideas for stories and create other characters that didn't really amount to anything, but just even in high school, I was still thinking about like, oh, I could make this character do this thing, or like coming up with original concepts for that kind of thing.
Ooh. So like you got your username LSuperSonicQ. You got that from a laser tag place?
Yeah, the laser tag. That's like the origin story of LSuperSonicQ. There was a laser tag arena near us, like a local one, and it was called Laser Quest. And we used to go there all the time, like in middle school and even high school a little bit too. But it was really big in middle school, which is when I had my YouTube account. And I was always really bad when we went because you had like a little like laser gun and like a pack. And when you were in the arena, when you got shot, it would tell you who shot you, and that was determined by the code name you put on your laser at the beginning of the battle. And there was rankings at the very end. So obviously we play and stuff, and I always wanted to hit rank one because who didn't want to be one on the leaderboard? And I was really really bad. I had a bunch of different names I would use, like I think Metroid 64 was my first one, and then Mega Mario was my second one, which are very, very generic. But yeah, I just wasn't very good. And then eventually we went more and more because it was like a ritual. Every week we would like go with the same friend group, the same people that actually were like pivotal to doing the rivalry in middle school. Like that kid was there, and my friend, and all, like it was the same group of people. And the first time I ever hit first place on the leaderboard, my username happened to be Supersonic. It was just chance. So when it came to picking a YouTube name, I wanted to pick a name that meant something to me, not Mega Mario or Metroid 64. But I said, well, Supersonic means something to me, and it was in reference to the Sonic character. But you wouldn't necessarily know directly if you didn't know what Sonic was, because Supersonic is like a real term. But then when I was picking my name, I said, well, Supersonic is too generic for YouTube, though. I need to do something more special. So I wanted to pay homage to Laser Quest, and they abbreviated themselves as LQ. So I said, I'm going to put this into the username somewhere. Should it be LQ Supersonic, Supersonic LQ? And it just so happened that L Supersonic Q was the one that rolled off the tongue, and I said, that's it, that's the username. And then that's how it all started, was that.
Hmm. So your first exposure to lost media was through a lost/banned kids show YouTube video on your Wii U?
Yeah, it was through the Wii U, yes. That's another one of those things like you gotta wonder like how does this like what were the circumstances that allowed this to happen? Just like I used to watch YouTube on my Wii U on my TV just because that was I think the Wii actually had a YouTube app on it, but it was pretty bad. But with the Wii U, you had the tablet, you could like type in whatever you wanted. It wasn't like as awkward as using the Wii remote to use a keyboard. So I would do that all the time because it was just fun watching it on the big screen. And for whatever reason, because I wasn't even watching like cartoon content on the Wii U. I don't even know what I was watching in 2015. I think it was a lot of video game stuff, like video game YouTubers and stuff. But for whatever reason, blame it on Jorge's top 40 lost or banned kids show video just happened to show up in my recommended, and I said like, what's that mean? And the thumbnail was a bunch of stuff I recognized. Like I know Jimmy Neutron was on there. I don't remember what else was on it, but I know Jimmy Neutron was, and I said, okay, what lost or banned Jimmy Neutron? Like, what does that mean? I had no idea what any of that even meant. And I watched the video, and that is what like unlocked my brain to lost media. And I'm like, that's like lost media. What? And you never. I think like the thing that made me even think about it in this way, and that a lot of people who don't even know what lost media is think about it in this way, is the fact that like you don't think that the stuff you watched as a kid had could be lost, or there could be missing stuff from the episodes, or episodes were banned entirely. You don't think about that. And then when like I was so much older, didn't see those shows for years and years, you're revisiting them and you're like, oh, I get to view this show in a different way now. And also just the general mystery of that. Like, why did this get banned? Why did this get lost? And then that kind of brings you down the rabbit hole, and then you're sucked in, and then you can't get out because it's too crazy. Just it's yeah, it really unlocked my mind, that one video. That opened me up to the whole thing.
So what made you want to make content of it, like make this lost media videos?
Specifically, it was about one topic in that video. It was called Kablam Episode 29. It was an old Nickelodeon show called Kablam. It was like a cartoon variety show. And episode 29 was allegedly a lost episode of the series that was supposed to be the series finale. The characters were supposed to like have like a kiss scene, and it was this big like urban legend basically. But that was the thing, is it was an urban legend though. And I said like, wait a second. How can there exist, or supposedly an episode exist of a show, but no one's ever seen it? No one knows if it's real? Like, well, how does that even make sense? And that specifically is what I started researching. And as I researched this stuff, I said, oh, this is worth telling in a video. This story is worth telling. And after I did my own research, just because I was interested, I kind of compiled all that into a video and said, people should know about this. Maybe I can solve the mystery for them. Maybe I can give them some more insight about that. And that's what got me to actually publish that video in the first place. And people just really liked it. Like, it was just that time, the right place. And I said, wow, people like this Kablam one. And I thought it was fascinating. Maybe there's some other strange cartoon stuff that like people would want to like check out as well. And then that led to like another one and another one. And I know a big one around that time was like the mysterious Ed, and Eddie pilot, which doesn't exist, but people thought it did exist, and there were rumors that it did. And that was a whole big search in itself. And eventually I debunked that it didn't exist. And same thing with Kablam episode 29, that didn't exist either. But it was getting to the conclusion of those stories that like made me want to release that information, be like, here's the story. Like, it's not real. Hope you guys get some closure on that. And it just sort of resonated with people. And it was really being able to like solve these mysteries and like inform the public of all this crazy like lore with the show and the old communities and stuff that really got me to want to like, yeah, like actually publish that stuff and like get it out there. And it's just fun too, getting able to solve a mystery, kind of like you know, that's a whole like YouTube side subculture now. It's just like mysteries and stuff, internet mysteries. So yeah, it was just really fun being able to talk about that stuff and having people actually like follow along with like the development and like what would be uncovered that maybe they hadn't even seen before.
So what made you like shift? Because like when I go through your content, like there were like a bunch, there was still more of like the clay stuff, but also like you had some of like the internet mysteries blended in. So what made like that complete shift from, all right, let's just like you just like put a pause to all the art stuff and then like fully focused on lost media and internet mysteries?
I think it was probably two factors combined. The first factor was something I mentioned earlier, where like the art just like really dried up the views on, and like obviously back then and even nowadays, it's not all about the views. And I don't think anybody should be making YouTube videos like for the views, like for the views specifically. But back then, I found that even the art I was making in 2013, 2014, just even the amount of just the interest, never, I shouldn't even say views, just the interest in it that I had in my earlier years was just gone. And it made me feel like, why am I continuing to make this content when it just seems like nobody really cares anymore? And again, that's kind of like the justification why I kind of stopped doing it, was like, I don't really want to do it for myself. I like doing it for others. But if no one's really enjoying it, or not as many people, then why do it? Why spend the time doing it? And
Hmm.
I was looking to expand my content back during that era. I did some vlogs, I did some gaming like hoaxes and stuff like that. And it was just the lost media stuff, whether it was just the right time and place, or the nostalgia, or the way I made my videos, because the videos that I made back then were really original. No one was really doing like their own research on one specific topic back then. Um, and I think it was really just that shift of interest in general. Art was doing bad. I was looking for something new. People really liked the cartoon stuff. Let's run with this and see how far we can go with it. And I remember going through some old blog posts from like around that time, and I was even saying that too in my blog posts that are still up and stuff, where I was like, wow, guys, people really like the mystery videos, the lost media videos. I'm surprised at that. I didn't think they were going to be so popular. It's funny reading those now and gaining that insight about what I was thinking back in those days, which is really what it is. I think it was just kind of like a runaway hit that I wasn't expecting it to be, and I like making videos that are going to appeal to the most amount of people. And just back then, it was the cartoon stuff. I was having a great time making them, and I said, why suffer through like a clay video when no one's going to watch it, and I don't even want to sculpt, because the sculpting took a long. The last few sculptures I made took like long time to do, and it wasn't fun. So I just kind of said, why do that when I could be doing cartoon videos and have a fun time doing it and have other people enjoy it even more than the clay stuff? And it just over like 2 or 3 or 4 years, it just gradually shifted all the way over, and then we just went like full lost media.
And since you're involved with the hunts for lost media, like what's the process like just finding like lost media?
That's a really tough one. There's a lot of different processes, people ask me all the time, like, yeah, how do I find lost media? And it does sort of depend on what you're looking for. If you're looking for like lost music, it's different than looking for a lost cartoon pilot, and that's different than looking for a lost video game. But generally speaking, it's generally a long process. It's a patient process. You're usually not going to find something like right away just because you really want it, or like you made one contact. Oh, I mean, well, maybe that person would have it, but generally speaking, it's unlikely. It's usually a series of contacting um, people that were involved in that piece of work, usually doing it through it could be through like a business email. I found that doing it on a more personal level gets you better results. It kind of just seeking those people out, asking them about the piece of work, say, hey, like there's interest in this old work. We'd love to see it. It's part of our childhoods or whatever. Any idea where we can get a hold of it? And then sometimes, most of the time, they don't have it. But if they do, then maybe you'll get it, or maybe they'll have it and they can't release it. You know, then they'll direct you to someone else that might have it, or say, "Oh, ask this person; they might know more than I would." And kind of send you down like a big tree of contacts, and then eventually, sometimes you do end up at that last person, the one person that you need to contact that does have it. And that could take, yeah, anywhere from a few months, like in the cases of a lot of SpongeBob bumpers or Nickelodeon bumpers. We usually find those within like a few months of the search starting. And then stuff like Slamfest or Me and My Friends, well, in years. So, yeah, it really does depend on like the type of topic specifically, but it generally it's a very long, patient process. But I think it is fun. It's also a really fun thing to do too, because if it wasn't fun, then I wouldn't be doing it, and people wouldn't be doing it. So, yeah, that's the one thing I think people have to learn though, is that you can't just wish it into existence. You got to put the work in to try to find it.
How is it like making a video? Like after doing like the digging and the research, like how is it like making it into a script and then like just making it into a video?
Ooh, I think it's a lot of fun. It's sort of, for me, it's sort of a few different parts. Yeah, there's the part where you do the research, you put it together in the script, then I record the script, edit the audio, then visuals are last. And I have a lot of fun doing that script. That's my favorite part of the whole process, is actually doing the script. Um, because it feels like I'm telling a story. I'm getting like, I get to shape this story, shape this search, and even on topics that don't necessarily have like back in the day, I used to focus more on single topic videos, which would document a search from its beginning to end, basically. But even in the videos I do now that are more like just like list videos that cover a bunch of different things, just researching the history of what's already been done on a certain search is interesting. Getting to put that together into like a narrative and sort of like tell that search history, where it's been, where it's going, stuff like that. I love crafting that, and maybe that kind of goes back to the whole we talked about earlier with like the Pink Ninja novel and stuff. I just love writing. I love like writing and getting to tell a story, like craft something. So that's really fun, and that's really easy for me. The recording is pretty fun too, because like I said, I like talking, and even that's like fun being able to like give life to like that text. The editing though, it gets a little tricky because I find that like I I feel like the information in my videos is more important than like what you're looking at. The visuals almost don't even matter unless it's something that pertains to like, look what was found, here it is. But if it's just like, oh, then this happened, and then this happened, and then they couldn't find it for the next year. It's like, well, what do you show for that? It's like, and it's like a stock image, stock photo. I mean, I guess you could, but I always found that editing is like, editing the visuals are one of my least favorites. So it's sort of a process of um, telling that story and then giving it life and then putting the visuals into they have something to look at, which is good for the purpose of a video, but it's probably my least favorite part. But collectively, I people like the format, they like the style. I people tell me they like it, and it's a formula that works. I mean, even if you're not watching, people tell me they fall asleep to my videos and stuff. So it's like, okay, that's a compliment too. Like I'm that background noise for people, and that's great. So I've kind of found something that works, and it is what it is. So if people like it, then I'm cool with it.
All right, I'm going to bring up some lost medias. You just have to give like a brief explanation and story for each. So the first one on my list is Slamfest 99.
Ooh, Slamfest '99 is one of my like holy grails, I guess, of lost media. So basically, Slamfest '99 was an event that is best known for it being live streamed over the internet in 1999 by Nintendo as a way to promote the original Smash Bros. Game on the N64. So the event specifically was consisted of a boxing ring and 4 costume characters: Mario, Pikachu, Yoshi, and Donkey Kong, that fought in the boxing ring. There was like a staged match, like a real life Smash Bros. Battle at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. And there was an audience. There was an audience in person, but it was also live streamed on the Nintendo website. And it's basically been lost ever since it was first like live streamed. The weird thing is, like, it was just this really strange promotional event for a game because Smash Bros was new that nobody really knew about at the time. And recording software was very primitive, so there would have really been no easy way for people to grab it. People wouldn't really had a reason to grab it. And because of all those factors, it just fell into total obscurity. It was only brought up. It was brought up, I believe, once in 2014, but it gained traction in 2020. I believe it was 2020 when Andre from Game Explain made a tweet about it, which is where I even saw about it in the first place. And a whole search has gone on since 2020 trying to find this live stream that used to be on Nintendo's website, and it's anywhere you could think to look or anybody you could think to contact, we have, and no one has it. So I don't know if it's sitting in I don't know if it's sitting in an archive somewhere that just like no one knows, or if there is like an actual fan who recorded it that doesn't know we're even looking for it. There are places it could be, but man, it's lost. Like there was almost no trace of it before we started looking. Very few traces. We have a lot more content and photos, but the actual live stream itself remains 100% lost. No videos exist.
Yeah. And then the next one I have for you is Batman versus Dracula, if I said the title right.
I think it's Batman fights Dracula. I
Okay, Batman fights Dracula. I just know it's the Filipino Batman one.
Yes, that's a really cool one too, and I feel like that's one of those like sleeper topics that like it's not super popular, but like if you know about it, it's like really really cool. So basically, that one is, I believe, it's considered the holy grail or one of the holy grails of Asian cinema. It was an old Filipino black and white movie. It was unlicensed, so it's not official, which I think kind of adds to its like obscurity and like the interest people have in it. Of like Batman, I guess, fighting Dracula. And I believe it was only shown very briefly back in, I think, 1964. 67. I think it was 67. In the 60s at some point. Only in the Philippines, for like a short period of time. And that was basically it. Like no one's seen it since then. It probably only existed on film reels. We don't know how many reels exist, where the reels could be, if anyone even has the reels, or if they do, were they preserved properly? We don't know of any other copies that people have in an archive. That's another one that could very well be lost forever. But I believe there have been some smaller efforts from within like Filipino film groups, and I contacted, or someone contacted me that claimed to be the granddaughter of the director, back before like 2020 and all the craziness of 2020. She was supposed to go to the Philippines and do her own research. Not sure if that ever happened, but I know there was some interest in actually like getting people hands on with this topic to try and find it. But other than that, though, yeah, it's basically just as lost as Slamfest, just in a different way.
And then the next one on my list is might be a bit of a sensitive topic for you, but Me and My Friends, the Backyardigans animation.
Oh boy, oh boy, I mean, it wouldn't be an interview without that one getting brought up. I feel like at this point, people have even said this to me. Me and My Friends is more the interest in Me and My Friends isn't even in like the actual topic at this point. It's more just like the community surrounding it and like the lore surrounding it. So basically, because this is also relevant because of the video that the team and me just released. Basically, Me and My Friends is the earliest iteration of the Backyardigans show that aired on Nick Jr. Um, Me and My Friends specifically was filmed at Nickelodeon Studios, Florida. It was live action and used costume characters, and the pilot itself was rejected, and it would only be revived years later as the Backyardigans CGI show as we know today. This original version, I think, first showed up, or one of its first, well, yeah, one of its first visuals that were really online for it was in a reel from Nick Studios, Florida, that celebrated their 10th anniversary. So it was made back in like the early 2000s, and it showed a clip. It showed clips of every show that was filmed at Nick Studios, Florida, and Me and My Friends was in there. There was a little clip of it, and I had made a video about that years ago, like in 2017, I think, and that's kind of what really brought people's attention to the topic itself. And ever since then, it has quite literally been an uphill battle trying to get content from it. That's the only clip, the only like video visual that exists for it. We have quite a lot of screenshots or pictures from the set, of the costume characters, people that worked on it, information about it, because we dug up a lot of information. So we have a lot of stuff like that. But as for like getting the pilot itself, that the full pilot stuff, yeah, it's just as lost as the other two topics we just talked about, just in a different way. We found people that like probably have copies. One guy that did have a copy, but there are some forces acting against us, preventing us from releasing that, which gets into the bigger lore about the whole thing. Is that there is a very, very likely theory that I think was actually basically confirmed based on stuff that I've been hearing like now, that it was actually found back in 2016 and it's being hoarded, and our research was sabotaged because the people that have it don't want anyone else to have it. And
Wow.
yeah, it's like, I mean, it's a whole crazy thing. And like early on in the search, like people thought we were kind of, you're a little crazy. Who's stopping you guys from? It's a stupid kid, like what does it even matter? But no, I mean, all the stuff we showed in the video, all the strange occurrences, there were faked emails from people we thought were like legit searchers. There was contradicting information. There was a lot of like hatred towards the lost media community itself from the Backyardigans community, and all together collectively, where we stand right now is, yeah, it's basically being hoarded, and we gotta find, geez, like a fourth copy of it, because all the other ones either can't be released or we were ghosted or this or that. So yeah, we're like, every time we get closer, it's like the goalpost moves a little farther away, and we just can't reach it. But I am confident someday we'll get a copy of that. But for now, only a handful of photos and one clip are online, and we're almost out of contact, so we're gonna have to pull something out of a hat, because man, it's gonna be really, really hard, like continuing the search just based on everything that's happened so far.
And how about the Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared pilot?
Ooh, the Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared pilot's a little more interesting, actually, because that is sort of a circumstance where there isn't really like, there's no factor that's holding back its release, like someone is hoarding it or like we don't know where a copy is. I believe, as far as we know, the creators of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared actually do have a copy. But, and this gets into like a different area of lost media, they can't release it because I believe they don't actually own the rights to it. It was like the production company that owns the rights to it, which is a valid reason to not release something. If someone else owns it or there's an NDA or whatever, and you can't release it, fair. No one's going to like complain about that. So I believe they do have it. Other than that, the only other place I think it was shown, I believe it was shown at a Sundance Film Festival, and I think clips of it were shown at a talk, like a conference that the creators had discussing the show and their creative process. Some clips came from there, I think, and some clips came from the original Sundance thing. I think we have most of it, but we're still missing some parts. I think there's like 5 minutes at the end that are still missing or something. And that's something that will probably only show up if some. I thought there were full recordings circulating at one point. They might have been taken down. So I think that's something that has either been out there before or it is obtainable in some way. Maybe at some point it will be released or something. But as of right now, I think only a small portion is still missing. So that one, not the farthest thing away for us to get. And we do have quite a bit of it already. So even if we don't get those last 5 minutes, we have a very good idea of like generally what the whole project is like. If we had that much content for me and my friends, I think everyone would be happy with just that. Like, let's end the search, like, whatever. But like, nah, we only have like 4 seconds of me and my friends. I believe we're only missing about 5 minutes of like the whole 20 minutes or so that the Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared pilot was.
And how about JoJo Phantom Blood, the OVA?
Ooh, JoJo Phantom Blood is a really good one too. So that was a movie that was only aired in Japan, in Japanese theaters in 2007 for like a few months. A lot of people believe it was like taken out of the theaters because the creator hated it or something like that, which wasn't the case at all. It just had its run and that was it. But it was never released onto home media, and the reason for that was because the company that made it got into some controversy with a different JoJo release they had at the time that basically got the license like taken from them before they could release the movie. So that kind of left it in this limbo, and then shortly after that, the series was kind of like rebooted with the new animation company, that David Productions, who does it now. Back then it was Studio A3P. Now it's David Productions, and that's the modern iteration of JoJo you see online and stuff. That's what it is now. So there's kind of no reason for them to go back and release an older adaptation. I think that's one of the reasons why it hasn't been re-released. And as far as we know, well, up to like now, there had been no bootleg recordings. No one had a copy. Shueisha, who holds the rights to JoJo, were probably the only people that even had it. It's not like something we could just, it's not lost like no one has it, but it's a little more than just like, oh, well, it's under NDA. It's like, no, Shueisha, big media company of Japan, has it. They're going to keep it close to their archives, and they're not going to share that, because why would they? It wouldn't benefit their brand at all. Well, to the lost media people it would, but generally speaking, it's not really relevant to what they're doing now. However, there have been some recent developments that are kind of slow. It's been very slow getting them going. But there are some developments on two places that are not related to like Shueisha itself that might have copies of it. Very heavily likely would have copies. One's a higher quality, one's a lower quality. I can't get into the details, unfortunately, but one of them is as simple as physically going to a location and like acquiring it. And right now, that's kind of what everyone's waiting on. That's the lower quality copy. The higher quality one is also, I guess, a physical go get it. But there's a little more like tape you got to go through before you can get that one. It's sort of more heavily guarded than the lower quality one. The lower quality one is kind of what everyone's waiting on right now. When that one guy goes to that one place and sees if it's there, we'll have our answer or not. So I'm hoping it's actually the first big find of 2025. Because that would be crazy if we actually get like something as big as JoJo Phantom Blood in like January. I think people would actually lose their mind if that happens.
All right, and then the next one I want to ask about is SpongeBob Pair. That one like just threw me off. I was like, wait, why a pair of SpongeBob is lost?
Yeah, the SpongeBob pair thing is kind of interesting, and that gets into like a sort of sub category, I guess, of lost media that's more like I don't want to say existence unconfirmed, because I'm pretty sure it's confirmed to exist, but like the weird memory stuff that like doesn't really have documentation outside of like someone's memory. There are a lot of topics like that. And this was one of those. Someone remembered from back in the day like this weird like promo or music video. I think it's referred to as a music video of SpongeBob or it was supposedly from SpongeBob. Um, but it replaced like his pineapple house, the iconic house, with like a pear. And there was like a live action band playing in front of his pear house or something. It was a very like bizarre, like out of character kind of thing. And the thread on the Lost Media Wiki forums was discussing it, like what could this be? And a lot of people kind of had their own ideas what it could have been used for, and a lot were actually debunked. It wasn't a theatrical short. It wasn't like a YouTube fan animation or anything unofficial. It was something that was aired on Nickelodeon apparently, but no one really knows what it was used for or why it exists, and no one's found a recording of that. So the search has kind of been like to find some type of thing that aired on TV that has a pair as SpongeBob's house and a band playing in it. And the search continues because we don't really know where to be looking other than just around the general time when it maybe would have aired and looking through like commercial compilations on YouTube and just hoping it's there, or maybe in the future if someone, because people are always uploading commercial stuff to YouTube anyway, like commercial breaks from Nickelodeon and the popular networks and stuff. Maybe at some point someone will come across a commercial compilation and it'll just like be in there and they're like, oh, is this the pair thing? And we're like, yeah, that's it. Like, so it's one of those things that I think we can only search for based on the recollections that people have, and then hopefully someday someone will just like stumble upon it and will actually have an answer as to like what the heck it's supposed to be. Because like you said, it's so strange, and you think like that's got to be fake, but there's more than one person that remembers it, and oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes, when an unverified memory has people backing it up, it's more likely to be real. And in that thread, I believe there was like a handful of people who were like, "Oh yeah, I remember like something weird like that too." So it remains to be seen what exactly it is.
Mhm. If there's one piece of lost media like you'd want like find instantly, you could just snap your fingers and boom, you already have it in your hands. Which one would it be?
Man, I would say it's probably Slamfest and Me and My Friends are the two like obvious answers because I've been looking for those the longest and they're like the most frustrating. Uh, I almost feel like Me and My Friends is just like a cop out because like we found it so many times we really should have it by now. I would say maybe Slamfest would be it because that's something that like we don't actually know if it exists anymore. I believe it probably does somewhere. We just gotta find that one person that has it, but we don't know for certain. So I would say Slamfest would probably be that. But if you want to count something else too, because we've already talked about that, Meso Blues has always been something that I really wanted to see, which was the original prototype short for Johnny Bravo from Cartoon Network. It wasn't the pilot, but it was more like the original like concept. It was a little short animation that the creator made as his thesis project before he graduated college. And he showed it to Cartoon Network, and they liked it, and then that kind of became the Johnny Bravo pilot. In the original version of this, the Meso Blues short, Johnny Bravo is more of an Elvis impersonator, and there's some screenshots and clips of that online that came from a DVD, an official DVD that talked about the history of the character. And he has like black hair. He looks more like Elvis with the white getup and stuff. And I've always thought that was so interesting. I would just love to see that. It's like a classic piece of lost media. But apparently the only person that has it is the creator himself. And he's kind of said that he doesn't want to release it because it'll kind of lose its like mystique. You know, it's one of those things like once it's out there, people won't really like value it as much, which I guess I can understand. But man, I'd like to see it though. Like, how else are we going to see it if he's the only one that has it? So that's probably a second one that I would just like if I could just instantly get the tape of that, pop it in. Yeah, there's Meso Blues. Like that would be great too. I always thought he was going to release it like at any point before now, but he just never did. So I don't really know what he plans on doing with that like ever. But he has it, so maybe someday.
So what's been the most satisfying find? Like you found a piece of lost media and like it was like the greatest feeling ever.
Ooh, I mean, I feel like I'm probably just like biased because it was like the first search that I ever did. The Kappa Mikey MTV pilot, I just think is always gonna be just like one of the highlights for me. That was so Kappa Mikey was like a Nickelodeon cartoon. It was very short lived. It was kind of like a parody on anime, actually. Kind of before anime got really popular and stuff. Way ahead of its time. But originally, before it was like a Nickelodeon cartoon, it was originally pitched to MTV. It was going to be a little more adult oriented in tone, and it was this mythical Kappa Mikey MTV pilot, and like that's so interesting, like an adult version of like a kids show, and that was also one of those like classic pieces of lost media. It was the first search I ever did by myself. And that was one of those like many months, many contacts. One guy's got to have it. The creator didn't have it. The early animators didn't have it. Some former crew members said that they remembered seeing it, but they didn't have it. And yeah, it's one of those things like you look back on it and you think, I can't believe I actually did that all by myself. Because basically, from start to finish, the creator hadn't seen it, and then 8 months later, I contacted the director, and he had a copy, and he gave it to me, and I was like, wow, that's like, I can't believe like that actually like was solved. So it was a little frustrating just trying to get to that point. But like it actually concluded. It felt so good. Like all my work finally paid off. And that's one that I'll always remember just for that reason, because like I just can't believe that we actually got. I was convinced that it was gone, like Slamfest and everything else. Well, we didn't know about Slamfest back then, but I was like convinced it was gone. But no, it wasn't. Like it was one guy had it, and I found that guy, and we got it, and like it was great, and the creator reunited with it, and it was like very wholesome. And man, that's one that'll like always stick with me. I will always remember that. Way back in like 20 20, I think it was 2016, 2017 I did that. Long time ago. Yeah, I'll always remember that.
And you seem to like talk about disappointing lost media on your channel. So like what's the number one most disappointing one?
Ooh, that's a really good one too. I know for a fact the I know for a fact on the topic of like pilots, the Billy and Mandy pilot was always kind of disappointing in the sense that it wasn't what we thought it was, and that was like along the lines of Kappa Mikey, Meso Blues, all that early lost media stuff. Yeah, I know there was a screenshot that showed up from like it was like a bonus feature in like a Game Boy Advance game of of Billy and Mandy. And it was like one screenshot with like very early designs of the characters, and people thought it was from a fully animated like color pilot and everything. And we really wanted to see it. We really wanted to find it. And the thing was, it actually wasn't. That was a piece of concept art people thought was from a pilot, but the actual Billy and Mandy pilot was actually more like Meso Blues. It was more of like a prototype short, kind of. Maxwell Adams had animated. I think it was in college he did it. Like a very rough black and white, like pencil sketch almost pilot of. It still used early designs of Billy and Mandy, but it wasn't really in the same vein as the actual show. It was almost like its own thing. And everyone thought we were in for a treat with a full color, like early pilot of the show that was going to look a little different. But yeah, it wasn't that at all. It was a very rough pencil sketch from college. That was disappointing. And I know like Maiden Point Richmond was also a disappointing thing for me. That was like a rare Pixar DVD that was said to have a bunch of rare content on it. It did have some rare content and some like commercials that we only had in low quality, but I don't know. I guess it was just sort of overblown. People were thinking it was like this. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess just like these crazy like Toy Story animations or like early Monsters Inc. stuff, like just stuff like that. But it was more just like test animations. Like I remember there was one, it was called Blown in the Wind, and I'm like, oh, what's that? Is that a short? Is that a lost short that they never put at the front of their movies? No, it was a grass physics animation, and I'm like, like that's like cool, but it's like not that interesting. And so that was and that took quite a while to find because people had copies, but no one wanted to share it. So once we ended up getting one, which I think came from a thrift store, someone found it at a thrift, or no, it was no, it wasn't quite a thrift store. I think it was someone's mom's grandma found it at a garage sale. It was like a really weird thing, like a really weird like lineage of that. Like they just happened to have it from like somewhere else that their relative had. I don't think they worked at Pixar at all or anything. And that's how it was dumped, not even from anyone official. But there was nothing really on that I was particularly like blown away with. And of course, Uncle Walt, just to round this out. Uncle Walt we didn't even get, but like I said in the video that talked about disappointing lost media. Uncle Walt, the whole Uncle Walt fiasco was very disappointing because for a long time we thought that was gonna, we thought we'd never see that. And then Thunderbeam said they had a copy, like a retro DVD animation company said they had a copy of this rare adult-oriented dark parody cartoon that was unofficial, that kind of mocked Disney, and it was sort of like an urban legend thing, and they were supposed to release it on a DVD, and they pulled that release, and then a copy, an actual real one on eBay, but no one bid on it because they thought they were going to get the Thunderbeam DVD, but then they pulled it, and the eBay thing ended, and no one had any copies anymore, and like, it's still lost. It was under our noses twice, and it didn't happen. And that I'm still disappointed at that too. But that was just sort of one of those things like if only you knew back then what you know now, you would have done things differently. But it just someday they'll show up again. But who knows when that'll be?
I actually have like one piece of lost media, and it's like I was always praying for someone like you or Jorge or maybe like Sakura Stardust or like Shy Valley to talk about it. It's this MMO called it's like a game kind of like Club Penguin or Pop Tropica. It's called Leap World. It's for the Leapster tablets. If you connected your Leapster tablet to a computer, you could play this online world and you could like customize a character and all that. And then it got shut down in 2017, and like the only thing that exists of it are like screenshots from like developer websites. There's of course like the trailer, like but other than that, like it's just gone. Like no one's ever like found it. Like I have a script written for it, but it's like every time I look at the script, it's like, man, this is kind of like lackluster. I was like, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because like that's like the one lost media I wanted to find. Like I was inspired by like if you know Sagan Hawks, he did a video on finding this old dinosaur game. Like after he found his dinosaur game, I got really inspired to find Leap World. Yeah, I just feel like bringing that up.
Yeah, I don't think I didn't watch the video you're referring to, but I think I saw the thumbnail for it because I remember the
Yeah,
dinosaur and it was a lost game. Yeah, I think there actually is other like Leapster related content that's lost aside from just the game you're talking about actually because people have told me about other games and features of the Leapster like brand that have actually gone missing. Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of requests and stuff for like lost online content and MMOs and stuff like that. So like definitely I mean I would say go for it. And like maybe that's something I would even put on one of my lists too. I'm always trying to gather topics for videos and there have been quite a few things that Jorge and me and other people as well have talked about and then they've like shown up. Of course, something with like a whole online world, it would be much harder to like
yeah.
archive that kind of thing. But people have done it before with different recreations of games that have gone offline, and they've found assets for stuff like SpongeBob. I believe there is yeah, some of the gorillas, they were the band Gorillas had websites and stuff back in the day that promoted new album releases and people have archived quite a bit of stuff from that like from like a promotional website. So like it is very challenging, but people have done it to some extent before. So yeah, you never know. You never know like what could show up just if like you talk about it. You never know who could come forward from presenting that information, to the public.
Yeah, I've sent a couple emails, just no responses. I'm like, man, should I give up the search? Like, I'm like hoping like one day I'll just get like, hey, sorry for the 4 month late response. But yeah,
Yeah, you never know. And that's the thing is, I mean, I've gotten responses from people months later and like, wow, like I thought they forgot about me. And also I feel like it is a numbers game too. The more people, of course, I don't know how hard it is to find people that work specifically on this or with this type of thing. But yeah, it is a numbers game. The more people you contact, the more likely that someone would have content from it. So, um, yeah, I don't know what the numbers are exactly on that, but generally speaking, though, um, someone's got it. Like someone like I remember back a long time ago. I don't know if you looked into any like the plush mysteries with like the Mario RPG Mallow plush and stuff.
oh yeah, I remember seeing videos on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like I would always think back then, like we don't know a lot about the Mallow plush or any of the Mario RPG. Now we kind of know all about it. Like back then, the idea was like someone who lived at one point in time made this plush. They manufactured it. They made the Mario RPG plush. They designed it. It was released. Like there is someone out there that has the answer, and I think that's also kind of like sort of like a nice like mantra to have is like the answer is out there because someone has the answer. You just got to like get to them first. You got to find that one person.
I remember there was another virtual world. It was for Nickelodeon. It was like a Club Penguin like game on their website too. I'm trying to remember what it was called, but you had this character who was like a human, but you can like dress him up as SpongeBob. I do remember someone made a video on it. I'm not sure if it was you or if it was like a smaller lost media channel. I just remember there was like a like just a virtual world too on like the Nickelodeon website, and like you can like make your character like he's human, but you can have like SpongeBob's clothes or like Jimmy Neutron's clothes.
I
Just trying to remember the name of that.
Yeah, I don't. I don't remember that one specifically, but I don't. I'm I'm sure that it's been well documented if it was a Nickelodeon thing. I wish I had really like played more of those online games growing up and stuff because I didn't really because I was playing video games, so I didn't really play a lot of the like the online stuff like that. I wish I did though because then I would have more of, like a personal experience with that kind of thing, and I'd be able to like just have more knowledge about it. But yeah, that's something too that like you'd think like it's such a popular thing that like either more people would have talked about it or you could find more people that would like have the content from it because like it's not like a Nickelodeon thing was going to go unnoticed. So it's like,
So, with you one of being like a creator who's been there for a while, pretty much like an audience, your audience has grown up with you. Like I was part of that audience that grew up with you. Like I've been watching you for a long time. It's like I feel like every time I open YouTube, you always have a video that gets recommended to me. I always like watch one of your videos like once a week, and like that's been going on for like the past few years. So how do you just feel about that? Like you grew up with your audience, and now like they're probably making content, or like yeah, or probably like on the Lost Media forums, like doing searches alongside you.
yeah, I always feel like that's weird when people say that I've like inspired that. Like that's just like that's like whoa, because like in my head I'm still like you know like the guy from 2017 who's looking for the lost media like the Kappa Monkey pilots and stuff, and I'm just doing it like because it's fun or whatever. Like I sometimes don't even realize how much of like an impact that's had on other people. So it's always like surprising and it's like a shock when people say that, which is really nice. So that's like I mean that's like even like for you to say that that's like whoa, it's like you've been watching for that many years. Like that's crazy. And I guess it really puts into perspective like how influential just the whole space is, I guess, and just lost media as a whole. Cause yeah, like Jorge and myself and even like All Things Lost and Sewer Reviewer and I mean all those people like that. Yeah, it's like we all kind of just came up like, around the same time and you never really think about the impact that like you have on that kind of thing. But it's like so cool to actually like see those people, like you said, search with you, and you're like, oh, like now it's not just me talking about the Cap Monkey pilot. Like everyone's helping with it. Well, not that specifically. Me and my friends started off like that, and even Slamfest. It was just me because I found them interesting, and now there's like whole searches around them, and like we've gotten way more information, way more detailed than I ever would have been able to do by myself, and that's like the power of like the community aspect. So yeah, it's both rewarding and it's both like humbling just to think that like wow, yeah, like there are people that watched me when they were kids and now they have families, and it's like, I guess like us lost media YouTubers really are like a staple of the internet now, which no one ever thinks when they're going into that kind of thing, but then it happens, and then it's like, whoa, got to keep that going.
Mm. Yes, like three of my previous guests, like, and I'm kind of like friends with them. So Shy Valley, Lachlan, Jaden Salas, and Adrian Gasly. Like, I brought up, like, yeah, I'm not gonna have a LSuperSonicQ on the show, and they like talked about you like as if you were like a legend, like Michael Jordan status. They were like Jaden, he was like kind of like shocked. Like, Shy Valley, he was pretty excited, and then Adrian, he was pretty stoked too because he talked about like a lost media he wanted to find, which was the Panic at the Disco album. It was like Crickets and
Oh
Clovers.
yeah, yeah, Cricket
I,
and Clover. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
yeah, yeah, he brought that up to me like in his episode. I was like, that got me really interested. And then like when I told him that like you were gonna hop on, like he was like really stoked. He was like, yeah, he brought up, yeah, he's the one I learned about Crickets and Clovers from.
That's
Yeah.
yeah, that's wild. That I mean that's wild. Like that's
Hmm.
that's crazy. Good choice of topic too. I mean, Cricket and Clover is a good one. That kind of like I know like that kind of gets into a whole thing about like lost music and stuff. That like lost music is sort of a lot harder to search for and stuff. I wish I had more to say about Cricket and Clover, or that like more had been found. I believe there have been some like developments from the video he's probably referring to, which I think was from 2018. But yeah, no, I wish that whole thing could be found. He'd probably really like it if the whole album was found. I would too, but I don't even know if that still exists or not because conflicting things from different band members, and you got to wonder, well, what's the real story?
What's your relationship with like other lost media YouTubers? Because like you said, like you like saw Jorge's video, and now you guys were together on the interview for the Lost Media Forums Discord. And of course, like there's like you brought up other creators, and I've also brought up a few other creators. So it's like your relationship with like other like Lost Media content creators.
Yeah, I guess it's I'm trying to think how to like. I guess it's pretty good. I mean, I do have obviously because there's so many different ones. I'm not friends with like all of them or anything, but we definitely do have a good like clique of creators, and we have our own like Discord servers and stuff where we can discuss ideas and stuff. Like Jorge for sure is part of that. Sakura Stardust, All Things Lost, Sewer Reviewer, Seeker of the Lost, people like that and stuff. So we do have a clique of us, and we kind of collaborate and whatnot back and forth. And yeah, every now and then Jorge will have me like narrate things for his video and stuff. And I'd love to come up with a good idea to have Jorge on my channel, but I don't have any good ideas, so I haven't done it yet. But Sakura Stardust was in one of my videos once too and stuff. And yeah, it's pretty good. It's a really good like way to like um talk about different ideas and stuff. And it's cool too because we all sort of, at least in the context of Jorge, myself, and Sakura Stardust, we actually all have like our own like niche, and that was kind of brought up in the AMA you discussed. Like Jorge does a lot of the spookier things, the spooky, mysterious like lost media. Sakura Stardust does a lot of like gaming stuff and Japanese stuff, and I do the cartoon stuff. And I think that's also really cool too, where uh we're not like sort of, or not that it's like, not that it would be a bad thing if we like encroached on anyone else's space, but I think it's actually good that like we all have our own interests, so that like we just can broaden the spectrum of like people that get into it, so we're not all talking about the same thing, so more
Mhm.
topics can get covered and stuff. And just the range of topics is reaching more people, which I think is really cool. So that whole community aspect I think is an important part in being able to like push forward with content and stuff. And yeah, that was something else too that like took a little while to kind of like form, I guess. Because back when I was, yeah, 2017, 2018, and 20, I think it was really 2020 or 2021 when that kind of took off. Yeah, I wasn't really like on Discord that much. Didn't really talk to like people that much. But then as my channel got bigger and more people kind of reached out to me, you form those like friendships and those relationships. And yeah, now all those guys are like my buds. I don't even really see them as like specifically like collaborators or whatever. We just get into like a general call in Discord and just like chat sometimes. So like that's really good. That's really like a healthy part of like having the right mindset to like keep making content, and like knowing that there are other people in your space that are kind of in the same boat with you.
To anyone who's like starting out on content, what's like a piece of advice you'd give to them?
Good question. I think there's three. I have always had like three rules about like making new content and stuff for people. I'm gonna try to remember them because it's been a while since I've given people like direct insight like this. Um, the first one is definitely pick topics that other people aren't talking about. Because even I see this too sometimes. Is I'll come across channels or videos, and it's funny because I don't even really. I watch lost media videos on YouTube sometimes, but I often just don't in general because I feel like it's working, and I don't like. If I'm on YouTube watching stuff, I like watching gaming stuff or something that nothing to do with my work. So I don't often even like watch lost media videos because I'm in that space and it feels like I'm working. But I will see thumbnails and stuff to videos, and I'm like, oh, that was a topic that I saw like that guy talk about, or like, oh, that video looks like that other video I saw. I think by talking about original topics and things that maybe people haven't heard about before, it will definitely help you stand out among everything else. Because like um, for as popular as like me and my friends is in Slamfest, no one really wants to hear about those over and over again when you could pick something else, or pick like a different Backyard Against topic, or like a different Nintendo topic instead of just the same ones. And especially if there's no new information, you're just kind of restating the same talking points as someone else. And which leads me to the second one is you can take inspiration but don't like copy a style. I know back in the day it was kind of commonplace for people to like clone Jorge's style of content, like the eerie music, like the monotone voice. And then if you do that, you're not really seen as anything other than like a Jorge clone channel, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to like be a Jorge clone or like an LSuperSonicQ clone. You want to be your own thing. So definitely take inspiration or like parts of our content that you like that you want to implement into yours, but don't like copy exactly because then you're just going to be seen as like a copycat. And then the final thing, glad I remembered all three, was to have your own spin on a topic, which I guess goes more along the lines of like just regurgitating points. Um, it's really easy just to like read a wiki article or watch a video from another YouTuber and just restate the same thing. But even if there's nothing new, if you really want to talk about a topic and there's just nothing new to talk about, like add in your own speculation or your own like thoughts about it, or like even in the Lost Media Wiki forums, I always say to people like, even if there's nothing to really say about a certain topic in a thread, just keep the thread alive and add some speculation or like some ideas or something. Just throw something out there. And that kind of applies to videos too. Is just like give someone a reason to watch your video. I mean, there's plenty of videos I've seen that um, maybe not necessarily about lost media itself, but about other topics and stuff that I've maybe heard about from somewhere else. But because there is an original twist to it in some way, I'm like, oh, I want to like, keep watching this video. What do they have to say about it? I want to hear what they have to say, and that also helps you stand out from like the rest of, all the other YouTubers who are like making the same thing. And aside from those 3 points, which were the 3 points I was thinking of from back in the day, which are still relevant now. But aside from that, I think persistence is also just like a general rule. It's crazy how quickly the space grew, not just in terms of like lost media YouTubers, but just in general, like just how quickly, um, like people decide they wanted to be YouTubers and just like have started making content and stuff. So yeah, you're not gonna get like a lot of subs overnight or whatever. It definitely takes time to gain that audience and stuff. And I think that's also kind of a better mindset to even go into content creation, is like, I guess, slow and steady. Like it's better to build up an audience than get that one hit video and then no one watches your other stuff because you just had that one hit.
Mhm.
So even if you have like low view counts at the beginning, like don't worry about it, because as you build up your content, people will start going back, watching that older stuff, and you'll see that, increase, that upward trajectory in views. It might take a while. It might take a year or 2 or 3, or it took me 9 years. But like eventually you get there, and if your content is good enough, eventually you'll get there. So
Yeah, it's funny you brought up like the whole like adding your own spin to a topic or talking about something new, is because like for me with like my personal channel, like I don't know if you saw, but I have like a personal channel where like I just kind of like have like I guess video essay ish. I don't really know what to call them, but yeah. So it's like the most recent video I uploaded was about like urban legends and like online kids games. So like I talked about like a bunch of ones from like Roblox, Club Penguin, and of course I talked about the notorious Webkins Killer, which you talked about in a video. So it was like I really tried my best to not watch like any other Webkins Killer videos, because I know there's three others. There's yours, there's Velskabum's, and then there's Izzy Iz's. I tried my best to not watch any of them, but I ended up watching yours because I was just like so stuck. But what I ended up doing with like that like video is like, yeah, I just kind of like added like personal stories. So I just think like what you said about like adding your own twist to like a topic is like, it's like, I guess like, yeah, just very true, because like I just kind of feel like it's kind of hard to be original now on YouTube. Like whatever you're thinking about, you want to talk about, unless you're like some animator or like something like that. It's like whatever you want to talk about, there might be like one other video talking about it. Yeah.
right, no, that's true too. I think it is hard just to find like entirely original topics too. Kind of like you said, the Webkins Killer stuff. It's funny how like I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure those videos came out like every couple of years. Like the topic would be recycled. Like, oh, it's been 2 years. The first
Mhm.
video is old. Now we can talk about it again. And like that's kind of the way of topics on YouTube. It is very very hard, like you said, to find a totally new thing that
Yeah.
no one has like ever talked about before. But yeah, no, that's a good point.
How about like some like advice for people who are doing lost media, whether they are a lost media channel or they're just like searching, like they just want to find an old game they talked about, or like yeah, just anything lost media.
I would say for sure like find like-minded people, I think, which would definitely help you in the search. Like the Lost Media Wiki forums is one of the best places to go. I always recommend people go to the forums, because even if there's no thread for whatever you're trying to find, if you make a thread there, you will get people who like come across that and want to help you on your search, and maybe there are even people there who have a similar experience with your topic. that have more information that like you wouldn't have gotten any other way. So definitely like by interacting with like other like-minded community people is definitely going to help you. Also, the Lost Media Wiki Discord server as well is like a good resource for that as well. It's a little less structured than the forums. I prefer the forums, but like either do work. Um, and also just being able to like, I don't want to say like network because that sounds very like, I don't know, like professional, I guess. But yeah, just having the like there are a lot of connections I have that I just like, people that I've talked to in like just Nickelodeon communities, let's say on Discord, just Nickelodeon communities who they have connections to people at Nickelodeon, or they know friends who are at Nickelodeon, and you can almost like go through them to get to the people that would have the answer. So even if like, you know, you're like, oh, how am I going to find that guy from Nickelodeon? I found his LinkedIn, but he didn't respond to me. Well, if you're friends with a Nickelodeon server, you can ask a guy, hey, do you know that guy? Oh yeah, I know that guy. I'll message him for you. And then you can kind of like relay information like that. So networking in that way, I think is definitely helpful. And it goes back to that, like, you know, um, like the more people having with a search, like the more efficient it is. So without a doubt, like talking with people and making those connections, and it is a little challenging because there are some topics more obscure than others, and people have said, oh, but like I went to the forums and I, talked about this topic and no one cared, and it is kind of hard. It could take a little while to
Hmm.
get some traction on your topic. But generally speaking, those are good ways to do it, and or you could just ask like a YouTuber like me or something. I try to cover as many topics as I can, even if they're like obscure. I'm just getting to like like things that maybe people wouldn't find interesting on the forums. Well, if I cover them in a video, then people will. Or like you said yourself, like just someone makes their own video too. Like, well, that's going to get in front of people's eyes, and you never know who's going to watch that video. So again, that whole network, getting it in front of people, kind of mindset.
Hmm. All right, and before we end off today and get to our Mariana sketch segment, I just got a few bullet questions for you. So, your favorite food?
Well, I was just thinking, I was just thinking about this today. Man, I gotta say, probably, I do like a good cheeseburger. I gotta say, like, that's always been my favorite. Like, man, Jersey Mike's Philly cheesesteaks, oh my God, like, that might be number one. Like, I can say no to Burger King or whatever. I can never say no to a Jersey Mike's Philly cheesesteak. I think that's gotta be number one.
All right, your number one favorite video game.
Animal Crossing on GameCube. I've thought about that one a lot. I've decided if there was only one game I would ever play for the rest of my life, it would be Animal Crossing on GameCube.
All right, what's your number one cartoon?
I think this one has changed recently too. It always used to be. It's actually not SpongeBob. I do like SpongeBob a lot, but I never considered SpongeBob to like be my favorite. It was always Chowder for a really long time from Cartoon Network.
That's a good one.
Yeah, like I would say, okay, that one might still currently be my favorite. But I recently rewatched a lot of Flapjack, which was airing around the same time as Chowder. Man, Flapjack holds up so good. Like that show is so funny. I don't know if I just didn't like appreciate it enough when I was like a kid, but rewatching that now, man, Flapjack is so good. But I I gotta say I'm gonna stick with Chowder. I think right now I'm gonna say it's my still Chowder.
All right, if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you want to go?
I've always said Japan because of the anime and the manga, but I actually have a reason to go there now. Well, I guess still on the anime, manga, video game culture stuff. Yeah, I collect a lot of Japanese video games like Sega Saturn and FM Towns Marty and stuff. That stuff is hard to find even on Japanese websites. I do a lot of like importing. That stuff is hard to find, and I think the best place to go and find that stuff is actually in the old retro game stores in Japan. I wanted to go to Japan to retro game shop and actually find those rare games that just don't show up online. Like you just can't find them. So of course, I'd like to go to Japan for a lot of other reasons, but specifically, I would love to go to like Akihabara and go to the retro game shops and all that stuff, and like actually um, buy the media that I like so much from its like country of origin. Someday I'm gonna do that.
I could imagine because I imagine getting like a Sega Saturn online is probably gonna be like in like the hundreds, thousands, maybe. I could imagine like getting it from like a Japanese store would just be like either like its regular price as it was back then, or maybe even like a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about retro games from Japan is like they were just made in such large quantities over there compared to the US. Yeah, a lot of it is cheaper. It's like so cheap. I've seen videos of people in um Hard Off and Super Potato and stuff, and they just got Sega Saturns and Super Nintendos and Famicoms lined across the wall. They can't get rid of them. And it's you'd never see that in the US. You can't find Saturns lined across the wall in an American retro game store because they just didn't make a lot of them in the US. But in Japan, there's a ton of them. And the Japanese libraries to some of those systems are so much more interesting than the ones in the US. So yeah, no, it's really cool. It's like a whole different gaming world over there.
All right, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
The other day, I jokingly had thought about this. And I might actually stick to it because it would make my life a lot easier. Having the ability to think of food and then instantly be served that food. I hate the process of I'm not a cook, and I find making food to be very annoying and tedious. I don't when I'm hungry, I just want to eat. That's why I actually like fast food a lot, because you go there and they give it to you instantly. I wish I could just think of. I guess that's why Chowder's my favorite cartoon. Just think of food and it's just right there. I just instantly eat it. I don't have to do any prep work. Just there it is. I'd love that. It's instant food.
Are you one for frozen foods, or yeah, it's frozen foods, just pop something in the microwave and then eat it like that?
I mean, I do eat a lot of frozen food, but I'm gonna sound real lazy. I don't even like doing that. I hate waiting that minute 30 for the hot pocket. I just want it, boom, right there. But also frozen food isn't that good. So with this theoretical superpower, I could wish for any kind of good food, and it would just show up right there. So it would benefit me that way as well.
And then I guess we can just get to our segments. So at the end of every show, I give you a random marine animal. I just give a fun fact about it, and you have to draw it in under a minute.
I do have...
Yeah, do you want to use paper, or do you want to use something like Microsoft Paint?
Oh yeah, I have a Sharpie and paper. I'm all set here. I'm all set.
Yeah, because the thing of how it works is that I just cut off the backgrounds, and then my friend puts them into an aquarium. He just animates them.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can send you.
All right, so
I can send you a clean image of this then.
You can just do that.
Picture of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right, and
I got the Sharpie and everything.
All right. The fun fact about so your animal was hammerhead sharks, and a fun fact about hammerhead sharks is that they can give virgin births. I don't know how that works, but I just saw that fun fact.
All right, I'll get
yeah. All right, and your timer starts now.
I don't know what a hammerhead shark's tail looks like. Actually, it's pretty good. I'm kind of digging this, actually. It's not bad.
All right, and your timer just stopped.
Right. Yeah.
All right, you just send it to me whenever you're ready.
There he is. I don't know if you can... Yeah, I'll send you a better picture. There he is.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that.
Awesome. And then, just any closing thoughts? What's next for LSuperSonicQ?
Ooh. Well, I have thought quite a bit about next year's content, actually. Yeah, I guess stuff to look forward to. I definitely am going to continue the usual videos with the pieces of lost media videos that cover all the different things, get those requests and stuff, because I like covering those. So that'll still be a staple. But I also next year specifically would like to get more into the history of the Lost Media Wiki, because I've been in the community for so long that I'm one of the oldest people who's still left in the community from that long ago, and I feel like the knowledge and history of how things started and where things have how things got to where they were is being lost because people just don't know the history anymore. So I would actually like to do a little mini series that covers the early years of the wiki and how we got to where we did, because I just feel like that information needs to be documented. I think that the community would think it's very interesting too to either learn about it if you're not knowing about it at all yet, or just revisiting it if some of those old people are. I know there are still some old people in there, but not as many as there used to be. So it'd be nice to kind of relive, that as well. And then also, just because I'll throw it in there, yeah. And then the second volume of Pink Ninja's coming out too. I'm gonna start working on that, which is just a really good side project, and I'm gonna keep improving with the writing and the art and stuff, as with the videos too. The videos improve with every release, so yeah, those are gonna be the big focuses. The that the direction of videos like that, and then the Pink Ninja novel is going to keep going. And yeah, well, that'll probably take up all my time. So that's what I'm going to do next year.
Yeah, and like, any closing thoughts for the audience?
Well, I guess thanks for listening for this whole time, because I talk a lot. So I guess by that metric, it was a really successful podcast then. But yeah, I know
Yeah.
this was really cool. I really enjoyed like the questions and stuff. Like very, I don't know if you're gonna keep this in or not, but you can if you want.
No, I will.
The
I
questions I
could.
thought were like really, really like original. Like I feel like a lot of the times I kind of get asked about like, a few of the same kinds of things, which is fine. But yeah, no, I thought it was really like cool. Like the questions like really made me, some of them really made me think, which is really good. So yeah, I had fun. This is really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, just like you were like, this was like a perfect way to end off 2024. Just like, because I started this show back in October, and then now it's like I got like a bunch of like, I guess the newer generation YouTubers like Raymundo 2112, Jaden Salads, Caleb is Salty, if you know any of those guys. But like having like an OG like YouTuber, like someone like me and all those guys grew up watching. It's like, I think that's like the perfect way to end off this year. But yeah, just thanks again for coming on. Like,
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
yeah, it was just kind of crazy. Yeah, of course. And to our audience, just thanks for listening. Check us out: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and yeah, Finn.
Oh, that was good. That was good. You got the fit in there. That was good.